Hey guys, it's been a while since I made a video on Ashes of Creation, mainly because I've been waiting for PAX to conclude and really putting my thoughts together on everything Intrepid has shown us so far. Today in particular, I'll talk about two things that's been quite heavily discussed in all of the Ashes social media since PAX started: the combat system and pre-alpha gameplay. Before I give my impressions on them, as redundant as it may sound, keep in mind that everything I'll talk about is in pre-alpha. It's not meant to be judged as a publicly playable game yet, hence the pre. We still have almost 2 years till the game is expected to be released, and the systems shown at PAX are likely the first ever versions of them, so they will certainly change, including many systems that were rushed just for PAX that have bugs like caravans completely flipping over. 4 archetypes have been showcased so far: Cleric, Mage, Tank, and Archer. From what we've seen, the game looks pretty well optimized, at least on their PCs within a controlled environment. However, the combat seems to be quite slow. By that I mean many skill animations take too long to have a seeable effect on the character or target, and the speed between attacks is greatly hampered by an attack system based on the slider, which I'll get to in a bit. That being said, the skill animations look pretty decent for a pre-alpha, and there's a good balance of flashy and more basic looking animations. Though it seems that a lot of the skills are typical of other MMORPGs like Arrow Rain and Lasso, we have to keep in mind that everything that's been shown so far is only with characters of a single archetype. I'm looking forward to seeing a Tank and Cleric archetype combination and how those skill augmentations will be, so I'll save those thoughts for next time. That being said, I still think that even with a single archetype, the combat should still be, as they described it to be, very strategic. By that I mean allow the players to have skill combos to use that affect each other rather than pressing the same keys over and over, activating single standing skills. I have a couple of pretty adamant opinions with the next part of these impressions, the bar system. You've seen it all throughout the video already, but basically it's a system in which a sliding bar appears right below your character that increases your skill's effectiveness based on how close you can trigger the slider to the pink bar. I am familiar with this kind of system. It's a very old and actually pretty common concept, from the new taming system in Blessed to as far back as the combat basis of Gunbound. I feel that the system needs to be taken out or majorly reworked. This bar system requires you to focus on a sliding bar and tunnel vision yourself when you should be focusing on your opponent who may be casting something you can block. Or perhaps another player is coming too close and you need to buff yourself to counter them. While I do prefer action combat in MMOs, the majority of games that I play are tab target. And for me, what makes a game have good combat in general is not whether it's action or tab target. It's a game's ability to get me completely focused on the fight. Take Arcade combat for example. There's 24 possibilities that can happen at any given time, and if you're not focused, the tide of the fight can change dramatically based on what happens around you. So you're paying attention to not only how you're fighting the single target in front of you, but the entire combat arena or area around you. I don't want to be staring at a UI sliding bar trying to get a crit for every single hit. It's just more fun to be focused on the bigger picture and the actual fight instead of a minigame. We've also seen that the combat style for clerics is typically melee, smacking people with a staff like a baseball bat, which is not all that typical of MMORPG healers. I've seen a few people complaining about how clerics as frontliners is pretty weird and that a staff is meant to be used as a healing or long-range magic weapon from afar. I just want to remind those guys that Gandalf did have cleric and mage archetypes, and this is how he fought for the most part. And you have to admit those staff smacking scenes were pretty great. Since we're still quite far from release, I think it would actually be preferred if Intrepid takes their combat system back to the drawing boards. I did try to think of an alternate solution that will allow the bar system to stay, but I just couldn't think of one that justifies keeping it. I think it would be really good for life skills like gathering minerals, to make it harder for botting, and also make mundane activities more interactive. But nevertheless, the sliding feature is a huge buzzkill for combat. As for PVE, I like that it looks to be heavily leaning towards team play reliance, as to discourage completely isolated gaming or solo play. MMORPGs should be designed to be played with the idea that interacting with others is necessary, which several newer MMOs that tried this year tend to lack. Certain dungeons and questline require multiple archetypes to do well, relying on their field advantage skills, like the mage revealing a hidden path towards this dungeon in a questline, or an archer using a tracking skill. Hopefully there will be many other ways to tackle each and every obstacle and challenge with different archetypes, cause I don't want to have to wait for any single archetype to join my party to be able to do any specific activity. But I like what they've shown so far as how reactive the world is. I always prefer when games make me have to figure things out to progress. All that said, I'm still hopeful that they will make changes based on feedback now. I'm not counting on Intrepid Studio, a much smaller studio in comparison to something like Black Desert's Pearl Abyss or Final Fantasy XIV Square Enix, to compete with highly funded MMOs in terms of combat, since what they pitch to be revolutionary are mostly things related to the node system, not to combat. That being said, I still expect to enjoy fighting whatever it is I need to. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it sure as heck shouldn't be bad. After all, Ashes is claimed to make MMOs great again. I just want to give a quick shout out to my top tier patrons for August, Fooshyy, Jackalopes, and JoshuaAwesome for the huge amount of monetary support they're willing to push towards helping me get more content out. Thank you guys so much for doing that and for being a part of my community as well. Until next time, have a good day.